Chapter 2391, Bad-Tempered, 2. This peace wasn't an absolute theory but a relativity theory. Compared to ordinary families, the Chiao family couldn't be considered peaceful. However, compared to how the Chiao family was tormenting Chiao Nan could be said to really be at peace when Chiao Zijin and Ding Jiyi were living under the same roof. In order to make it more convenient for Jia to go to high school, and because Zihua had already mended her relationship with the Zai family, Zihua brought Jia to live in the quad after the divorce. That night when Ding Jiyi suffered from food poisoning, the people from the northern quad weren't familiar with the people from the southern quad and couldn't inform Zihua. Otherwise, Zihua would have been involved in this as well. Chiao Nan leaned against the sofa and smiled. The Wang family has already stopped creating trouble. Why would I worry about those two from the Chiao family? After Ding Jiyi was discharged from the hospital, she naturally didn't recover her relationship with Chiao Zijin like before. Thankfully, Ding Jiyi was still mindful of her own health. Even though she was still at odds with Chiao Zijin, she wouldn't do things that would cause herself to be admitted into hospital again. Since Ding Jiyi and Chiao Zijin were relatively settled, Chiao Nan focused wholeheartedly on being a full-time mother and raising the three children up well. Perhaps it was because others found out that she was giving tuition to Jia that there were quite a few people who came to the Zai family recently, trying to get Chiao Nan to teach their children English. Chiao Nan rejected most of these children. Until now, she hadn't agreed to anyone yet. However, giving children English tuition was something she was familiar with in this lifetime. Should she do this when the three children go to school in the future and she could be free? Mom. Stomach. Hungry. A chubby child pounced onto Chiao Nan's knee, signaling that she was hungry. Chiao Nan looked at the time. There was still 1.5 hours before dinner. She could only cut some fruits for the children first. Sister Zihua, I'll go off now. The three children are hungry from playing. I'll cut some fruits for them. All right. Zihua hurriedly let Chiao Nan go, knowing the bad habits of her nephews and niece. Furthermore, she had already shared most of what she wanted to with Chiao Nan. San Bao, greet your aunt. After that, I'll cut some fruits for you, all right. San Bao looked at the phone and greeted Zihua. Then, she flashed a cute smile at Chiao Nan. How would Chiao Nan be able to withstand her daughter's coquettish behavior? After hanging up the call, she took her daughter's hand and entered the kitchen. After the three children grew up, their tempers followed suit as well. The aunt had gone to the fruit stall in the market to buy all the fresh fruits at home. However, it was unknown when the three children started to eat only the fruits that Chiao Nan cut. It was as if they were afraid of the adults fooling them, as they seemed to have come to an agreement to take turns and watch their mom cut fruits every day. Upon seeing this situation, Miao Jing always joked that these three children were mini supervisors who didn't allow Chiao Nan to become lazy. Chiao Nan was fascinated. Could it be that the fruits she cut would become sweeter? She couldn't communicate this to the three children. And it probably didn't make sense to them. Thankfully, Chiao Nan was a full-time mother. She naturally had the time to cut fruits. After cutting a small piece of the red dragon fruit, Chiao Nan turned around and put it into San Bao's mouth. San Bao was long prepared. She tried to open her mouth as wide as possible, letting out an ah. When her mouth was stuffed with that sweet piece of fruit, San Bao clapped with her chubby hands, and the smile on her face was sweeter than the red dragon fruit. She never stopped chewing. That blissful look made Chiao Nan doubt if she had really fed San Bao a piece of ordinary red dragon fruit. San Bao looked like she was eating dragon meat instead. After feeding San Bao 2 mouthfuls, Chiao Nan held San Bao's hand again and walked slowly toward the game room. She knew that there were still 2 children waiting to be fed there. The triplets were fed with dragon fruit pieces in sequential order. Their eyes lit up and they were extremely satisfied with the treatment. Chiao Nan couldn't help but smile when she saw her children's happy looks. After a while, Xiao Nan felt a rather resentful look land on her and she felt uncomfortable. Xiao Nan turned and saw the three children's father. "Brother Zai, what's wrong?" Zai Sheng didn't say anything. He looked at the dragon fruit unintentionally and played with the three children. Even though Zai Sheng didn't say a single word, based on Xiao Nan's understanding of Zai Sheng, she only felt that Zai Sheng had used his whole body to express this: "You are an unscrupulous woman who only wants your sons and daughter but not the father of your children." It was unknown if he had spent too much time with the children, causing him to become young as well. In the face of such a childish husband who was competing with his sons and daughter for preferential treatment, Xiao Nan didn't know if she should be angry or just laugh. What should she do? She had already fed her children. Could Xiao Nan not agree to feed her husband, especially since no one else was around? Xiao Nan picked up a small piece of dragon fruit and wanted to feed it into Zai Sheng's mouth. Zai Sheng's expression immediately improved when Xiao Nan understood what he meant. She finally noticed his presence and was going to treat him well. Before the couple could become loving, an unexpected intruder appeared halfway, making Zai Sheng so angry that he felt that giving birth to children was one of the worst decisions he had ever made. Among the three children, Bao was the cheekiest and had many tricks up his sleeve. In the face of De Bao and San Bao, Bao still had the patience to wait for his turn. When this person became Zai Sheng, his father, Bao expressed that he was still a child and thus wanted his mom to feed him. His dad was already an adult. He could eat it himself. Upon seeing that the fruit in his mom's hand wasn't for the children but for his dad, the chubby Bao jumped up like a little leopard and rushed toward Zai Sheng. Zai Sheng reacted quickly. He stretched his long arms and held Bao easily. Bao clung to Zai Sheng's arm, stretched out his small neck, opened his mouth, and took a bite of the fruit which he snatched over. After succeeding in eating the fruit, Bao no longer wanted to stay in his biological father's arms. With a twist of his little buttocks, he went down to his position and continued to play with models. Xiao Nan was speechless. Zai Sheng was speechless as well. Which family did this agile child belong to? More importantly, Bao was very good at snatching over the fruit. How did he do it with his chubby body? Chapter 2392, Bad-Tempered, 3. Xiao Nan couldn't help but ask, "Brother Zai, since when did you bring Bao to the army behind my back? Haven't I said it before? They are still young and haven't fully grown up yet. They walk around like ducks now. How can they undergo training in the army?" Zai Sheng's eyelids twitched, feeling that Bao was unpleasing to the eye. Based on his skills, do I need to bring him to the army? No matter how cruel he was, he wouldn't have reached that stage. Furthermore, although these three children had indeed disturbed his interactions with Nan Nan, they were still his children no matter how bad they were. However, I've just decided that the children of our Zai family are cheekier than others. They weren't cheekier but were obviously too cheeky. If they became even cheekier, would Nan Nan still be his wife? As such, we can bring forward the time for them to take a look at the army. After successfully getting himself into trouble and also implicating De Bao and San Bao, Bao moved his little mouth quickly like a squirrel. He had a carefree look and didn't understand the meaning of his father's words at all. Zai Sheng looked at the dragon fruit, showing his obsessiveness with it. That piece of fruit was snatched away by Bao just now. As such, Nan Nan had to feed him another piece. Xiao Nan laughed. Indeed, the father was the same as his children. What else could she say? She would treat it that she was providing for 4 children. Xiao Nan picked up a piece of fruit. After thinking for a while, she fed it to De Bao. While Zai Sheng looked stunned having been abandoned, Xiao Nan used the fastest speed to stuff a piece of fruit again into Bao's and San Bao's mouths. After confirming that the 3 children's mouths were full, Xiao Nan stuffed the 4th piece into Zai Sheng's mouth. Even though Xiao Nan didn't feed Zai Sheng this piece of fruit tenderly and her speed was the same as that of a machine gun, at least he managed to eat it. After achieving his goal, Zai Sheng was satisfied. He confirmed that at the same time Jiao Nan valued the 3 children, she loved him the most. Of course, only Zai Sheng himself knew how this ranking came about. Next, Jiao Nan repeated her actions and took turns feeding a piece of fruit each to the 4 people, taking care of both the father and children well. Anyway, it was approaching mealtime soon. Sharing some of the dragon fruit with Brother Zai would prevent the children from eating too much fruit so that they could still eat their usual amount of food later. As she thought of this, Jiao Nan picked up the plate so that the 3 children couldn't see that there were still a few pieces of dragon fruit on it. Then, she put them into Zai Sheng's mouth at the speed of lightning and quietly said, "Eat them quickly." The cold-faced Zai Sheng seemed to smile immediately. Most importantly, his ears were blushing. This incident proved that the children's father was indeed more important than the children to Nan Nan. Upon seeing that the plate of dragon fruit was gone and the children would still be able to have their meals later, Jiao Nan, who didn't know what Zai Sheng was thinking, revealed a satisfied smile to him as well. Raising a child required 2 people to work together. As such, there was definitely a difference between the mentality of a woman who wasn't a mother compared to one who was. Before becoming a mother, Jiao Nan fed fruits to Zai Sheng as she really wanted to treat him well. However, after becoming the mother of 3 children, most of her purpose in doing things was mainly for them. "San Bao, eat some vegetables." At the dining table, Jiao Nan was holding the small pink bowl that San Bao exclusively used. She was having a headache. It was unknown if De Bao and Er Bao were boys that they were more playful and active and consumed a lot of physical energy. As such, the brothers weren't picky with food. Of course, compared to vegetables, the children naturally liked juicy meat more. However, in the face of adults feeding them with green vegetables, De Bao and Er Bao just frowned at the very most. They would still open their mouths and eat them. In comparison, De Bao and Er Bao gave fewer worries to Jiao Nan than San Bao. The little girl was picky with food and didn't like to eat vegetables. As such, her nutrition level wasn't very high, and she even felt uncomfortable when pooing. There was no choice. Jiao Nan could only feed San Bao one-on-one, hoping that San Bao would eat a few more mouthfuls. Thankfully, as brothers, De Bao and Er Bao were quite sensible. They knew that San Bao had a bad temper and didn't like to eat vegetables. As such, they didn't compete with San Bao for their mom to feed them. They would be willing to eat no matter who fed them. It was really easier to take care of them compared to a year ago. Indeed, once the little girl saw the green vegetables, she pouted and looked unhappy. Meat. Vegetables tasted weird and weren't as tasty as meat. Eat vegetables. Jiao Nan ignored the little girl and continued to send vegetables her way. Eat vegetables. That way, San Bao will be pretty. Otherwise, San Bao will be ugly. San Bao blinked. Vegetables are ugly. San Bao is pretty. Jiao Nan was so angered by the little girl. Was she unwilling to eat vegetables as they were too ugly and felt that they didn't match up to her beauty? This 1-year-old girl had a lot of thoughts. Her nonsense could really coax people. Eat vegetables so that you can become pretty. If you don't, you'll become ugly. San Bao patted hard at the small table with her chubby hands a few times. No, no, no. Meat. Meat. Da-da-er-er. The little girl felt wronged. Why did De Bao and Er Bao have meat but she didn't? She was even made to eat horrible vegetables. How is that the case? Look at De Bao and Er Bao. They eat their vegetables. Miao Jing nervously handed over a piece of vegetable to De Bao. When De Bao, who had already eaten a lot of vegetables, saw this excessive vegetable in front of him, he sighed helplessly and opened his mouth as if put in a difficult spot. Er Bao's situation was no better than De Bao's. The brothers ate vegetables like they were taking poison. Even the people by the side watching them couldn't help but feel uncomfortable for them. Thankfully, in the end, De Bao and Er Bao ate their vegetables. They were considered to have set a good example in front of Sanbao. After eating this mouthful of vegetables, the brothers pointed to the meat, looking extremely hungry. They had long eaten their vegetables. They no longer wanted to eat vegetables anymore but tasty meat instead. At this age, the brothers didn't know what the meaning of setup was. A sister like Sanbao was meant to set her brothers up. Look, Dabao and Erbao had eaten them. It's now Sanbao's turn. Open your mouth wide. You will finish them very quickly. After eating vegetables, we can have tasty meat. Qiaonan was very satisfied with her two sons. She wanted to hurriedly feed her vegetables while she was still obedient after seeing how good her two brothers were at being role models. Chapter 2393, No longer remembered the situation. 1. Sanbao held her chubby face with her hands. After hesitating for a while, she sighed. Qiaonan thought that this sigh meant that Sanbao was going to compromise and eat vegetables. Who knew that Sanbao suddenly said, "Da-der-er." Vegetables. Give them. Give. Didn't Dada and Er like vegetables? She didn't like them. Since Dada and Er liked them so much, she could give all her vegetables to them so that they could eat more. That way, she no longer needed to eat those hateful vegetables and could eat more meat. How would Qiaonan, the mother, not understand the meaning in her daughter's words? Seeing that her daughter knew how to throw baggage to her brothers at such a young age, Qiaonan really wanted to slap Sanbao's buttocks. To think that Dabao and Erbao usually took care of Sanbao so well. Sanbao would actually bring misfortune to her two brothers so simply just because of vegetables. Bad girl. Dabao and Erbao have already eaten their vegetables. This is your share. Eat it yourself. If Dabao and Erbao would still like them, there's more on the table. They don't have to eat your share. The little girl was young, but she had an agile mind. She could actually think of such a solution. Sanbao started to throw tantrums and slam the table, using this to protest against her biological mother's unkind behavior of forcing her to eat vegetables. Sanbao became unhappy. Out of anxiousness, she couldn't speak even if she wanted to. She just started to yell. That tone, speed, and volume sounded extremely fierce. It was as if she was arguing with others. What are you eyeing for? Eat. Qiaonan's temper was about to become bad because of Sanbao. If you don't eat them, I'll only carry Dabao and Erbao today. Also, I'm about to get angry. Sanbao's so disobedient. I'm so sad that I'm going to cry. As she said that, Qiaonan wiped the corners of her eyes with her back facing Sanbao. Cry. Sanbao understood this. Upon hearing that her mom was upset and going to cry, Sanbao stopped in her actions of slamming the table. She looked at her mom carefully with big and watery eyes as if trying to see if her mom was really upset and wanted to cry. However, as Qiaonan's back was facing her, Sanbao couldn't see her face at all. What Sanbao could see was that with her mom's back facing her, her mom's body was moving very much like the way she did when she usually cried. Sanbao became guilty for causing her mom to cry. Mom, Mom. She tried to please her. Vegetables. Eat. Sanbao. Eat. Mom, stop crying. I'll eat my vegetables. Is Sanbao really going to eat her vegetables? Qiaonan didn't turn around. She asked again to confirm the meaning in Sanbao's words. Sanbao patted her head. Yes, Sanbao. Vegetables. Eat. Mom, don't cry. She mispronounced the word cry as she couldn't say it as accurately. Sanbao was finally willing to eat her vegetables. Qiaonan couldn't help but wipe the sweat on her forehead. Ever since having children and they became picky, she had to rely on acting to coax them to eat every day. Qiaonan suspected that under the intensive training by Sanbao, her acting skills could allow her to mingle with the rest of the actors in the entertainment circle. No cry, No cry. Seeing that Jiaonan was wiping her face with her hand, Sanbao really thought that she was wiping her tears when they were actually sweat. Sanbao, who thought that Jiaonan really cried, became anxious. Vegetables. Eat vegetables. Sanbao's so obedient. Let's eat vegetables. Miaojing tried to feed Sanbao. This time, Sanbao frowned and opened her mouth with the same pitiful expression that Dabao and Erbao carried previously when they were made to eat vegetables. After chewing for a while, she swallowed the vegetables and they went down her stomach. Miaojing, who was in the know, couldn't help but suspect if she was holding a piece of green vegetable or poisoned vegetable after seeing the exaggerated look on Sanbao's face. Miaojing's heart nearly softened when she saw Sanbao's look. Wasn't it just a few mouthfuls of vegetables? Forget it. If she wasn't going to eat today, she could eat more tomorrow. The results would be the same. Furthermore, after Sanbao grew up, she would choose to eat more vegetables instead of meat no matter if it was for beauty or health reasons. The Zai family had really gone all out in order for Sanbao to eat a few pieces of vegetables. After waiting for Sanbao to finish her meal with much difficulty, Miaojing and Qiaonan both felt very tired. Seeing the triplets who were playing together after having their fill, Miaojing tapped her old elbow. I'm already a grandma, but this is the first time I found children difficult to take care of. When she was young, she was too willful. She passed her newborn daughter and son to her father-in-law to take care of back then. At this moment, Miaojing couldn't help but think that Sanbao was Zai Sheng's daughter and Zai Hua's niece. Were her own daughter and son picky about food like Sanbao when they were young? Back then, her father-in-law had taken care of both children and she wasn't by their side. Miaojing immediately felt guilty upon wondering if her daughter and son were similar to Sanbao and were picky about food. Back then, she had really let her father-in-law down. He was already so old but still had to raise two mischievous children. Initially, she should have been the one to suffer all of this. However, it was her father-in-law who had suffered for her. Seeing that Miaojing was quiet as if in deep thoughts, Qiaonan, a daughter-in-law who was close to her mother-in-law as if she were the latter's birth daughter, immediately guessed what Miaojing was worried about. It must be back when old Master Zai was still alive. The dead were gone. To Qiaonan, not only was old Master Zai gone, but those elders who were extremely well to her and took good care of her in her dream were also gone. As humans, they couldn't immerse themselves blindly in the sadness of the dead. They had to straighten their faith, look to the future, and live themselves out. Living well was the best way of nostalgia and gratitude to the dead. Blindly remembering the past would only let the people close to them become worse off as well. Life would then be dim and without color. Nan. Who do you think Sanbao inherited her pickiness from? Miaojing couldn't help but ask the doubt in her heart. Since you've married over, I realized that you eat everything. There isn't anything you don't like to eat. Nan was so good-tempered. Sanbao's pickiness definitely had nothing to do with Nan. No matter how Miaojing thought about it, she felt that Sanbao's habit came from the Zai family. If that was the case, old Master Zai had first brought up his granddaughter, followed by his grandson. It really wasn't easy for an elder to bring up two children. Anyway, when Miaojing saw her daughter and son again, she couldn't find the habit of them being picky eaters. If Zai Hua and Zai Sheng had such bad habits before, then her father-in-law must have spent quite a lot of effort to correct them. It was just that times were different now. Parents' attitudes toward children had changed tremendously. Chapter 2394, No longer remembered the situation, 2. Everyone believed in spare the rod and spoil the child in the past. Now, there were only a few children in every household. It was rare to have one or two precious babies. Everyone couldn't wait to hold them in their hearts up high, and they wouldn't be beaten or scolded. It was especially easy for such children to be pampered until they were lawless. Relatively speaking, Qiaonan had only given birth once. However, she gave birth to 3 children at once. Compared to other families that only had one child, the Zai family was considered to have more children. However, no matter how many there were, the triplets were the Zai family's precious children. They couldn't bear to scold or beat them. Furthermore, the triplets were born late. Based on Qiaonan's and Zai Sheng's ages, they were considered to be old parents. Faced with the late arrival of these triplets, Miao Jing, as a typical grandparent who usually doted on their grandchildren more than their children, really doted on them a lot. As such, at times like these when San Bao threw tantrums and became emotional, Miao Jing would always only coax San Bao. She couldn't bear to be ruthless and manage her. If San Bao liked meat but not vegetables, Miao Jing would only let San Bao be. She felt that once San Bao grew up, the sensible her would know what to eat and what not to eat, even without anyone teaching her. It was just that when people are old and they encounter certain situations, they couldn't help but recall the past. Qiaonan didn't feel that there was something wrong with elders often recalling their past. She just didn't want Miao Jing to be stuck in the emotions of her past and couldn't pull herself out. Old Master Zai left early. Before he left, she and Zai Sheng weren't together yet. Zai Sheng even had a failed marriage then. Based on the fact that Chu Chenxi made a cuckold out of Zai Sheng, Old Master Zai must have felt quite angry over this matter when he was still alive. Before Old Master Zai left, a lot of bad things happened in the Zai family. Not only was Old Master Zai unable to enjoy his old age, but he even had to worry about Zai Sheng's and Zai Hua's future before he left. As such, Old Master Zai's death was a wound that everyone in the Zai family couldn't touch. It would hurt badly. There was Zai Yaowai and Miao Jing, and there was Zai Hua and Zai Sheng. When Old Master Zai left, he couldn't help but worry about all four of them in the family. The Zai family felt that they owed Old Master Zai. Upon thinking about him, they would feel sad. Although Zai Sheng didn't mention it, his mood was similar as well. If he didn't feel guilty toward Old Master Zai, his grandpa, he wouldn't have stayed in the old house of the Zai family during his 1 year of recuperation. Of course, until now, the Zai family felt that although Old Master Zai was no longer around, his spirit was guarding this family. Otherwise, based on Zai Sheng's situation, where he couldn't meet a woman that he wanted to get married to in Pingcheng and the capital, how would he be able to meet Qiaonan, his destined true love, at Qingshui town, a poor and remote area where all the young people there would choose to go out to work? They weren't superstitious. They could only say that this was destined and Old Master Zai was blessing the Zai family. Every time they thought of this, the Zai family wouldn't feel as pained as before and felt that they wouldn't have the face to face Old Master Zai after their deaths. People who were alive were leading better lives. Indeed, this was the best form of nostalgia and answer to the dead. Ah! Qiaonan couldn't interrupt Miao Jing's thoughts, but someone in the family could, San Bao. San Bao had finally eaten all the green vegetables like they were poison and was waiting to enjoy the beauty of meat afterward. Who knew that Miao Jing, the grandma who doted on her, refused to give her a piece of meat after she ate those horrible-tasting vegetables? The little girl was impatient from waiting and raised her voice. She tried her best to pounce her small body in the children's chair to Miao Jing. With San Bao's fierce look, it was without a doubt that once she hooked herself to Miao Jing, San Bao would naturally grab the dishes, especially the meat in her bowl, over and feed them into her mouth. These adults had no conscience. She had already eaten her vegetables but they refused to give her meat. They were bad. Seeing that her granddaughter's chubby face was red from the anxiousness of wanting to eat meat, Miao Jing smiled. "Don't be anxious. The meat's not going to run away. The meat in the small bowl belongs to San Bao alone. De Bao and Er Bao have already finished eating. San Bao, you can't lose to your two brothers. You can only grow up faster if you eat more." Miao Jing no longer thought about Old Master Zai and fed San Bao wholeheartedly. Otherwise, the little girl would throw tantrums again if she fed her slower. De Bao and Er Bao couldn't really sit still after having their share and insisted on walking around to digest their food. If that couldn't be done, at least give them a toy for them to play with. It was too overboard to let them sit there and watch Sanbao eat meat. Ziyawai carried the two children down. Dabao and Erbao immediately ran around freely in different directions. They didn't want to be caught by their elders and be confined in small baby chairs after gaining freedom. Slower. Ziyawai, who was a grandpa, didn't understand how children like Dabao and Erbao could have such an anxious temper that they insisted on running when they couldn't even walk steadily with their short three-headed body and chubby arms and legs. He wiped cold sweat in his heart on behalf of these two children. They didn't fall in front of them before. Even if they did, they would climb up without crying. Ziyawai really tasted the fun of bringing up his grandchildren. Ah! Sanbao couldn't help but become anxious again. Dabao and Erbao were still playing but she was left alone. That was unfair. Qiaonan pinched her daughter's face in bad temper. You didn't eat properly during mealtime. Now, you're jealous that Dabao and Erbao are playing. You have the worst temper in this family. You're a girl. Can't you be more demure? When you throw tantrums, even Erbao would hide when he sees you. If you want to play, hurry up and finish your meal. Sanbao should have understood Qiaonan's words as she cooperated well next. She wasn't willing to eat even a piece of vegetable during the past 15 minutes. Now, she took her meal seriously and finished everything in her little bowl within 3 minutes. After eating, the little girl was so anxious that she kept trying to squirm her way down. Qiaonan carried Sanbao out of the children's chair and flattened the trousers that had been crumpled by the little girl. Then, she patted Sanbao's buttocks and let her look for her two brothers. I think Sanbao won't have the chance to wear the dress Jia bought for her. She was so bad-tempered. When she became wild, it was as if she had given birth to 3 sons instead, where one of them was a fake daughter. In this regard, the triplets' situation was different from the dream. Chapter 2395, no longer remembered the situation. 3. She remembered that her 3 children weren't picky about food in the dream. They ate whatever that was provided to them and were very easy to provide for. Qiaonan was wondering if she and Zisheng were both no longer young when they gave birth to the triplets and that resulted in Sanbao being mutated. As for the picky eating habit being inherited, Qiaonan felt that this wasn't reliable. Miaojing said that in the past 2 years Qiaonan had married over, she wasn't picky about food at all. Qiaonan wasn't willing to reply to that. Why? When Qiaonan was at the triplets' age, how was she full? When she was just 3 months old, Ding Jiyi no longer wanted to breastfeed her as she found it too troublesome and always tried to find opportunities to wean her off. If not for discovering later that milk powder was too expensive, Ding Jiyi would have really weaned her. When she was 10 months old, she could be fed solids. As such, the solids more or less became her staple food. Picky about food? How was Ding Jiyi willing to give Qiaonan such a chance? She had to eat whatever that was fed to her. If not, she could go hungry. A growing child was easily hungry to begin with. If she couldn't be full during mealtimes, she would just be very hungry. That didn't feel good at all. It was impossible for whomever under Ding Jiyi for a living to be a picky eater. Why? Are Sanbao so pretty? If she wears a dress, she will definitely be the prettiest girl around here. Miaojing was anxious and wanted to find a folk remedy. Sanbao was already more than a year old. However, her hair was always thin and soft. She also didn't have a lot of hair and long hair. Miaojing wanted to use some folk remedy so that Sanbao would grow a lot of long black hair. That way, when Sanbao grew up, with her pretty dress coupled with nice-looking plaits, whose daughter could win against her? Qiaonan helplessly sat on the sofa to rest. Serving Sanbao now was more tiring than any other chore. Look at how wild she is. Does she look like a girl? She's cheekier than Dabao and Erbao. When playing, I see Dabao and Erbao being quieter than her. Based on how she's playing, I don't feel at ease for her to wear a dress. Xiao Nan always hoped to be more protective of her daughter. Even if there wouldn't be people like that in the small district she lived in, Xiao Nan didn't want anything to happen to San Bao. Furthermore, based on San Bao's wild character, won't San Bao just shake her head if you give her a dress? She might even think that it means that you don't like her performance since you give De Bao and Bao pants but give her a dress. San Bao liked to be aligned with De Bao and Bao. She would follow suit and do whatever De Bao and Bao did. Whatever De Bao and Bao had, she wanted to have them as well. If hers was different from De Bao and Bao, even if hers was actually better, she would throw tantrums and insist on changing it to something similar to that of De Bao and Bao. Xiao Nan was quite happy about San Bao's temper. The three children were born together. Indeed, De Bao and Bao should take care of San Bao more. However, as the sister, San Bao should be more united with De Bao and Bao. She shouldn't request different treatment from De Bao and Bao simply because she was a girl. This wasn't a good habit, let alone a good thought. Upon hearing Xiao Nan say this, and upon thinking about San Bao's usual performance, Miao Jing could only say that San Bao was Xiao Nan's biological daughter, after all. Compared to her, the grandma, could she understand San Bao more than Xiao Nan did? No. All right. As long as San Bao's comfortable and happy, it's the same regardless of if she's wearing a dress or pants. She really didn't believe that after a year or so, San Bao would be different from other daughters and not like to wear dresses. Dad. As San Bao chased after De Bao and Bao, she heard a sound from the door. The little girl was quite bold as well. Of course, as the little bully at home, she didn't know what fear was. She ran over and guarded the door. Within 3 seconds, the door was open. Upon seeing a familiar family member, San Bao shouted happily as she rushed toward Zai Sheng and hugged his leg. Dad! I want to be high. I want to fly. There were so many people in their family, but only their father would accompany them to play this game. Of course, as the only capable executioner, Zai Sheng's position as a father rose bit by bit in the children's hearts. However, the person they liked the most was naturally Xiao Nan, their mother. Dad! Carry! Fly! The bad-tempered San Bao pulled Zai Sheng's trousers forcefully with her chubby hands. If Zai Sheng didn't carry her, she was prepared to climb up herself. Thankfully, the resources distributed by the army, such as clothes, were made of sturdy fabric and weren't easily torn by children like San Bao. If Zai Sheng's clothes were not sturdy enough, his reputation would most likely be ruined by his biological daughter, San Bao. As a spoiled brat, setting her father up was a must. After testing if the fabric was sturdy enough, San Bao started to test if the belt around Zai Sheng's waist was sturdy. If either of the two failed the quality inspection, Zai Sheng would be sabotaged by San Bao. Looking at his daughter's flushed face, Zai Sheng couldn't help but feel depressed. She was a short and fat little tuft of meat. How did she have so much strength? Were all children so strong? Anyway, every time San Bao pounced on him and wanted to climb up, Zai Sheng would feel that his trousers were about to be torn off by San Bao. He wasn't going to compete on strength with his daughter. Otherwise, the unlucky person would be himself. He would be lectured by his mom and wife, and his 3 children would look at him like watching a show. Zai Sheng bent down and carried the chubby San Bao up. Then, he threw her up. San Bao immediately lost her anger and started to laugh. Her crisp laughter spread in the Zai family, causing both De Bao and Bao to find out about their father's return. Then, they lined up so that it would be their turn after San Bao's. Brother Zai, it's fine to coax them just a little. They have just finished eating 5 minutes ago. I initially wanted them to play for a while before coaxing them to take an afternoon nap. With you playing with them, they are now so excited that they probably can't sleep. They might be so sleepy later that they wouldn't even want to have their dinner. Xiao Nan understood the triplets' situation the best. She had encountered such a situation before. Once they took an afternoon nap, they wouldn't move. If they weren't allowed to sleep, the 3 energetic babies would be in low spirits. They haven't slept. Zai Sheng looked up at the time. Didn't his sons and daughter generally sleep during this time? He was back in a hurry and almost forgot about this situation. Chapter 2396, Can't Be in a Hurry, 1. Knowing that his sons and daughter wouldn't be able to sleep later if they were excited about playing now, Zai Sheng ended this game after throwing each child up 5 times. The 3 children weren't satisfied with these 5 throws. Thankfully, they knew that their dad had just reached home, was probably tired, and needed to rest. After being coaxed by their mom to go back to their room for story time, De Bao yawned first. Sleepiness then came in waves. Let's go. Zai Sheng was strong and carried a son each in his arms. Xiao Nan carried San Bao. The couple quickly sent the 3 children to their nursery to coax them to sleep. The 3 sleepy children had already developed good habits. Upon hearing Xiao Nan's gentle voice, they fell asleep soundly like little pigs when she barely reached 1/3 of the story. Xiao Nan went out with Zai Sheng after touching the children's faces and placing their hands inside the blankets. Why are you back today? Upon thinking that the 3 children were already more than a year old and they could choose a better early learning center, Xiao Nan took out the homework she had done before. I've discussed it with Dad and Mom. We feel that these 3 centers aren't too bad. You can see which one we should send our children to. They would be tired if they had to take care of the 3 children at home daily. However, if they were to send them to school, even Miaojing and Zai Yai would feel uncomfortable, let alone Xiao Nan. If they didn't make a decision about the school, the 2 elders would feel uncomfortable and couldn't eat well. Until today, a decision had not been made yet. In front of her parents-in-law, Xiao Nan wasn't so determined. Since Zai Sheng was back today, Xiao Nan hurriedly handed over this difficult task to the children's father, Zai Sheng, to make a call. Xiao Nan felt that she couldn't change this habit of hers. If something were to happen at home, she had to rely on Zai Sheng, the head of the family, to make decisions. After kissing Xiao Nan, Zai Sheng calmly took the information of the 3 schools over and started to read them. His status as the head of the family suddenly emerged. When Zai Sheng was reading, not only did Xiao Nan remain quiet, but she also helped him pour water and massage his shoulders. To be honest, because Zai Sheng was in military wear, the fabric was both sturdy and hard. Xiao Nan's small arms and legs couldn't soften Zai Sheng's clothes, let alone massage his shoulders for him to relax. It was just that Zai Sheng liked the feeling of Xiao Nan surrounding him and putting the children behind him. After reading the information of the 3 schools, Zai Sheng quickly made a decision, unlike Xiao Nan and her parents-in-law, who couldn't make a decision after discussing for 2 days. They felt that all schools were good and couldn't come up with a ranking. Xiao Nan was easy to talk to. If her parents-in-law made a decision, she would agree with it. These 3 schools were good. There wouldn't be problems in choosing one blindly. However, Miaojing and Zai Yai had different opinions. It wasn't good for Xiao Nan to side with any one of them. As such, she waited for Zai Sheng to be back to make the decision. All right, this one then. They had finally selected a center. Xiao Nan reacted only after glancing at the school's name. We've finally settled on where to enroll the children. You don't know how your parents disagreed every time we discussed this topic. I was really worried that they would argue because of selecting a school for the children. She knew that it hadn't been long since Zai Yai and Miaojing untied the knot in their hearts. They finally led a loving life with mutual affection. How was Xiao Nan willing to disturb that because of the 3 children? After holding Xiao Nan in his arms, Zai Sheng touched the meat on her body. It's pretty good to send the 3 children to school and let the teachers bring them up. Have you lost weight again? I don't know. I didn't weigh myself. Xiaonan never cared about her weight regardless of if it was before or after marriage. She just knew that she didn't gain weight. Don't be so honest. Dad, Mom. Nan, do you think Zihua and I are easy to bully? Of course not. Sister Zihua was ruthless when she became bad-tempered. Although Sister Zihua didn't do it directly, the outcome of the matter was largely related to her. Wei's beloved son sold the family house in their hometown and left with Wei Xiaomei. Wei transformed from a military officer to an ordinary citizen. He didn't even have the ability to live in Pingcheng anymore, let alone do business. Father Wei and Mother Wei stayed in a shabby house that nobody wanted. In the current society where every inch of land could bear gold, Xiaonan couldn't help but think how far the Wei family's hometown was and how shabby that house was that nobody wanted to be its owner. They didn't like their granddaughter and their grandson even ran away. At this age, Father Wei and Mother Wei were poor and left with nothing. Oh, no. They were left with something. They were left with a decadent and ambitious son who gradually immersed himself in alcohol. How glorious was the Wei family before! Everyone in the village envied them. The most promising person in the village was always Wei Dai. However, how pitiful were they now? Those who envied them before now looked at the Wei family with sympathy and pity. Such a situation was too miserable. This misery was not necessarily material. More of it was spiritual. As for Zai Sheng, Xiaonan never felt that he was ever good to bully. Qiu Chenxi might be bad, but after marrying Zai Sheng for 3 years, she had cheated on him as a virgin. Different people had different opinions whether it was bad that Zai Sheng was made a cuckold out of or embarrassing that Qiu Chenxi was in such a situation. As a female, Xiaonan felt that Qiu Chenxi must have felt a devastating sense of shock. Qiu Chenxi later had more messy romantic relationships outside. It was estimated that only Qiu Chenxi herself knew if she was being self-indulgent or feeling self-abandoned. How dare Xiaonan look down on such a formidable pair of siblings? As a newbie, Xiaonan simply shivered when she saw the gods of the Zai family. To think that one of them became her husband who protected her and the other became her sister-in-law. She only let go of the pressure when they were family. That's why. Zai Sheng let down the hair that Xiaonan had plaited into braids and pressed the acupuncture points on Xiaonan's head with his strong fingers. He let Xiaonan lean in his arms comfortably, closing her eyes to enjoy. The person who was massaging and the person being massaged seemed to have changed roles. Don't always feel that my parents are old. They still have a lot of thoughts. How would the couple who had given birth to him and Zihua require Nan's sympathy and care? Chapter 2397, Can't Be in a Hurry, 2. Needless to ask, Zai Sheng knew that the 2 elders couldn't bear to leave their 3 grandchildren and felt that their later years would be unexciting if the 3 children were sent to an early learning center earlier. As such, they conspired and deliberately put on a show in front of Xiaonan so that she was in a difficult spot and would delay the process of sending the children earlier to school. The older they got, the younger they got. This accurately described Miaojing and Zai Yayawai. As a man who was biased toward his wife once he had a wife, Zai Sheng didn't hesitate to stand on Xiaonan's side, exposing the thoughts of Zai Yayawai and Miaojing. He had no intention of maintaining the images Xiaonan had of them in her heart. After knowing the situation, Xiaonan could neither laugh nor cry. Dad and Mom are really. Even if they were sent to the early learning center earlier, they wouldn't spend a lot of time in school. Could it be that her parents-in-law were addicted to being tired and wanted to chase after the 3 children every day? She wanted to send the 3 children to school as she was considerate of the 2 elders. She was worried that the 3 children were too active and would tire them. Who knew that her good intentions caused the 2 elders to make such a joke? Brother Zai, should we still send the triplets to school then? She really couldn't resolve the problem of the grandparents being clingy to the children. Upon thinking about Zai Yayawai's and Miaojing's ages, Xiaonan was always soft-hearted. The responsibility for this matter obviously didn't lie with her, but every time she thought of how Zai Yayawai and Miaojing couldn't watch the 3 children grow up like in her dreams, Xiaonan felt especially sad. They couldn't see Da Bao and Bao grow up to become real men who were as outstanding as their father, Zai Sheng, and they couldn't see San Bao become a slim and graceful girl who was flower-like. As she met Zai Sheng late, the three children were born almost 20 years late. That was almost the time of a generation. As he hugged his beloved wife, Zai Sheng acted more calmly. You can ignore them. It wasn't that Zai Sheng didn't have similar thoughts as Xiaonan. The problem was that Zai Sheng wasn't willing to be too entangled with what had already happened. It was already not bad that the Zai family had such a happy and complete life like today. As such, they shouldn't be greedy and always question why such blissful days didn't come sooner or if only time could be longer. As a member of the Zai family, everyone had their own responsibilities. However, Xiaonan was the only person in this family who didn't need to be responsible. Zai Sheng no longer resented and blamed his parents for the failed marriage with Qiu Chenxi and the cold relationship he had with the Zai family for the past 20 years. However, Zai Sheng was even more unwilling to put pressure on Xiaonan and make her feel wronged. Everyone no longer talked about this topic in depth. However, this didn't mean that its previous existence had been obliterated and the responsibility could be placed on Xiaonan now. Even if his parents didn't mean it this way and this was just Xiaonan's thoughts alone, Zai Sheng similarly disallowed it. Alright, the old people are soft-hearted. If we really go along with them and pamper the three children such that they grow up astray, do you believe that old Master Zai would be the first to lecture them both? You haven't seen old Master Zai before. He doesn't have a good temper. When he gets angry, regardless of if you are 3 or 30 years old, you will be beaten if you make a mistake. When my dad sees old Master Zai, he would only let him be and not rebut him. When old Master Zai was still alive, he had never been merciful toward him and Zai Hua. He managed them when he had to, and he beat them up when he had to. Both of them were beaten by old Master Zai before when they were young. The only time that old Master Zai wanted to hit Zai Hua but didn't do so was when Zai Hua insisted on marrying Wei Dai. It was Zai Hua's life. Although old Master Zai obviously knew that Zai Hua's decision was wrong and he didn't like it, he couldn't choose Zai Hua's path or use his own strength to force Zai Hua to give up her thoughts and persistence. Speaking of the mentality Zai Yayawai and Miaojing had toward the three children, Zai Sheng thought of old Master Zai more. As parents, his parents couldn't compare with old Master Zai. As grandparents, they were still inferior to the previous generation. Thankfully, old Master Zai was around in this family. At least he and Zai Hua were by old Master Zai's side back then and weren't considered to have grown astray. If his parents really gave more care and concern to him and Zai Hua, nobody knew how they would grow up today. Old people were more stubborn. However, at least Zai Yayawai and Miaojing weren't the kind of people to do anything too overboard. Furthermore, they would have been delaying the arrival of the three grandchildren whom they had been waiting for a long time. After Zai Sheng and Xiaonan made a decision. No matter how reluctant the two elders were, they didn't say anything. They only said that if conditions permitted, they wanted to send the children to school and fetch them back home while they could still move. Zai Yayawai's and Miaojing's health conditions weren't bad. The Zai family had a driver as well. If they went out, they would be chauffeured. Xiaonan and Zai Sheng didn't find that letting Zai Yayawai and Miaojing temporarily send the children to school and fetch them home was an issue. As such, they agreed. There was soon a result of sending the children to the early learning center. They chose a good school, registered them, and sent them there. The so-called early education might not really teach the children anything to learn. It could be playing games or singing songs. Of course, Zai Sheng and Xiaonan had long understood these situations. When the couple sent the children to school, they stood outside the classroom and observed them from the outside on the first day. Aside from San Bao throwing tantrums and needing the teacher to coax her and Da Bao and Bao being a little unhappy initially, they quickly adapted. After all, there were a lot of children in the school. There were toys as well. With more playmates around them, even San Bao would naturally get used to such a rhythm of life. Within a week, Sanbeo found a good playmate in school. That girl was a mixed blood and was 1 month older than Sanbeo. Xiaonan observed for a while. Sanbeo should like this little sister as the other party was pretty. Also, if Sanbeo wanted to play with anything, that little girl who was 1 month older than Sanbeo would actually give her toy to Sanbeo and play with her. With a little sister who was pretty, willing to give in to her, and willing to play with her, how would Sanbeo be unhappy? She had another little sister who could take care of her. Within a few days, Sanbeo was happy. If she didn't see that little sister in school, she would even be unhappy. What made Xiaonan proud was that she similarly observed that this little sister was so good to her daughter because Sanbeo was cute. Chapter 2398, Can't Be in a Hurry, 3. No matter how young a child was, they could assess looks. The two little girls were satisfied with each other's looks and a friendship was silently formed. It was undoubtedly a kind of liberation to Xiaonan that the three children adapted to school life. She no longer needed to revolve her time around the children every day. Xiaonan had more time on her hands and she naturally became free as if she had nothing much to do. Before the Zai family could be worried about Xiaonan not adapting to this situation and thinking that such a life was boring, Xiaonan acted before them. "Brother Zai, help me take a look. Is my plan all right?" Xiaonan had collected a lot of information and consulted the lawyer before coming up with a proper plan. After all, she had the experience of doing business with Tiandong in her dream. She could still draft an almost perfect proposal. At the very most, she would just find a professional to see if there was any amendment she should make after the proposal was done. However, Xiaonan naturally did the initial plan. "Brother Zai, based on my current capacity, should I find someone to help me manage this?" "This is all right." Zai Sheng nodded. "If there's a need, I'll help you find someone." Back when Chief Zhu was unable to manage himself, hadn't he found Wang Yang for help? Wang Yang studied politics. However, he was still capable of investing. Not only did Wang Yang manage the investments that Chief Zhu handed over to him well, but he also made a fortune and helped Chief Zhu earn quite a bit of money. Of course, following the closure of the inheritance lawsuit, everything in the Zhu family now became Nan Nan's and had nothing to do with Wang Yang. It was precisely because of this that Wang Yang was so angry that he vomited blood. All these years, he had helped Chief Zhu manage everything in the Zhu family. He initially wanted to inherit more money in the future. He didn't expect all his hard work to benefit others in the end. "Have you really decided to do this? You have to know that once you start investing, it's a bit difficult to withdraw it halfway. Also, such an investment is definitely not small." Zai Sheng had an impression that Xiaonan wanted to invest in old and lonely elders. He also knew why Xiaonan had such thoughts now. However, good deeds couldn't be done with just words. The most important things were the money and investment period. "Yes." Xiaonan smiled. "You don't have to be worried. I don't have any psychological burdens. To put it bluntly, I didn't earn this sum of money. I got it for nothing. Even if I really invest in caring for the old and lonely elders, I don't have any loss. Furthermore, I don't think the speed of ruin would be fast. Godfather left behind quite a lot of money. No matter what it's for, I want to do what I set out to do. Otherwise, what shall we do if I set a bad example for the three children?" Perhaps it was really because she wasn't spending her own money that she didn't feel heartache. Xiaonan only hoped that elders like Zhu Chenqi could enjoy their old age more comfortably. Furthermore, Xiaonan's first phase of the plan wasn't targeted at all old and lonely elders. There were still some criteria to be met. For example, an elder became old and lonely as their child joined the army and had sacrificed himself for various reasons. This batch of people was what Xiaonan wanted to take care of first. Xiaonan knew that although world peace seemed to be achieved now, regardless of internal or external factors at play, there were always such problems when it came to the safety of the country and its people. There were numerous unsung heroes who had made sacrifices. There were a lot of such big cases in the country, even without mentioning those people stationed at the borders dealing with terrorism or drug lords. Aside from listing the elders who had no one to take care of them as their children were soldiers who had sacrificed for the country and people as the first batch of target audience, she also included people like the elders who had to send off their own children as they were police officers who sacrificed themselves heroically when fighting against criminals. As the people's heroes, the blood of these people couldn't be shed in vain. The elders they left behind in the family shouldn't be left alone and lonely such that they couldn't enjoy their old age. Don't think that Xiaonan seemed to have set the bar high when selecting her target audience. Xiaonan did her research and analyzed the data. As such, she was very clear that the number of people in this category wasn't little. Furthermore, these sacrificed heroes didn't leave behind only their elders but also their children. After the heroes sacrificed themselves, their other halves were still young and had plenty of time before them. Xiaonan didn't care if they remarried. However, she couldn't tolerate it if the elders and children they left behind were not taken care of. Based on this situation, Xiaonan expanded her original target audience. The elders who were left behind because of such situations would be given certain kinds of treatment and care. If there were children left behind, Xiaonan couldn't do much, but she was willing to sponsor their studies so that they could continue school. The amount of money spent on elder care alone would be huge. Elders weren't picky about food, but since they were going to be taken care of, their nutritional needs had to be considered. Not all who were taking care of the elders were volunteers. There were fees involved as well. Also, old people were like machines used for a long time. There would always be issues that required fixing, right? This would then be a huge sum of money. After talking about elders, it was time to talk about children. Not a lot of money would be spent on the child's 9 years of compulsory education. However, the costs were high when they reached high school or even university. The elders in the family wouldn't be able to afford it. There was always no way to save the money spent on the elders and children. It was precisely because of this that after knowing Xiaonan's plan, Zai Sheng said that once this matter was invested in, it wouldn't be good if it was stopped halfway. However, the costs to bear were huge and she would suffer a lot of stress due to the financial burden. Also, Zai Sheng didn't know much about this aspect, let alone understand it. That was because he hadn't done it before. In this way, once the plan was implemented, Zai Sheng couldn't give Xiaonan a detailed reference on how complicated and difficult this process was. If he wanted to help, he didn't know where to start either. Xiaonan was a newbie in this. Zai Sheng was similarly one too. As such, they definitely had to consider more issues than an average person. It was good to do good deeds with good intentions. However, it really wasn't easy to do good well. Let's find a team of lawyers and asset management folks. We can't rush this. Chapter 2399, Keeping One's Promise, 1. This was quite a big project. If they really started this, their family didn't need to worry for a few years that Nan Nan would feel bored and relaxed as the 3 children were in school. It was good to be kept busy. Okay. Xiaonan had zero experience in this matter. She could find Zai Sheng to discuss further so that she could make a decision. With Zai Sheng's support and affirmation, Xiaonan would be able to move forward boldly and confidently. Sure enough, as Zai Sheng expected, once this matter started, it wasn't easy to stop. There were also a lot of things to be busy with. The fast momentum nearly made Xiaonan overwhelmed. Initially, Zai Yaowei and Miaojing felt that by sending the 3 children to school so early, their time with them would be greatly reduced and they were a little uncomfortable and unhappy in their hearts. However, after Xiaonan had her own things to be busy with, these 2 elders became happy. Why? If Xiaonan was busy, she naturally wouldn't have the time to take care of the triplets. Someone had to fetch the children home. As such, Xiaonan wouldn't fight with them for this task. Right? Aside from sending them to school and fetching them home, there was another thing that was very important. Once Jiaonan became busy, she couldn't let go of things halfway. Especially at the start, Jiaonan needed to invest more time and energy. Unless everything was on track, Jiaonan couldn't relax and spend more time taking care of the 3 children. One had to know that the first step was always the hardest. Jiaonan had no time to take care of the 3 children. Without a doubt, the burden of taking of the children naturally fell to the grandparents, Zai Yaowai and Miaojing, again. They were very happy that they could spend more time with them. Although it was tiring to take care of children, the psychological satisfaction gained far exceeded the physical fatigue. Zai Yaowai and Miaojing had such thoughts. Based on their age, a day taking care of the triplets was a day gained. While they could still move and bring the children along with them, they must take care of them more and spend more time with them. Otherwise, when they could no longer move, had no more strength, and even needed someone else to take care of them while they were sick at home, they would only be weak and full of regrets that they could no longer do anything for their grandchildren. After having such thoughts, Zai Yaowai and Miaojing lived each day seriously and with great care. They cherished the diminishing times they had with the children. Thankfully, the 3 children were good-tempered. After going to school for a while, they gradually began accustomed to the fact that aside from their parents, there were still a lot of other people who were in the world they lived in, for example, the teachers and children in school. Since the 3 children could adapt to school life, Jiaonan naturally didn't take care of them like in the past when she became busy. Their grandparents were by their side. Within a few days, the children stopped throwing tantrums and adapted to the situation like how they adapted to school life. Furthermore, Jiaonan only spent lesser time taking care of the children. It wasn't that she didn't take care of them at all. One had to know that Jiaonan was the person who forked out the money. She was the big boss. At the beginning, a lot of things had to be discussed with Jiaonan and were confirmed only after she gave the approval. Otherwise, Jiaonan would have spent some money and hired a talent to resolve trivial matters. When the boss had nothing else, it could be considered that these were better times. She forked out money while others forked out effort. As such, Jiaonan's tasks were relatively fewer. She could work less and be more relaxed. Jiaonan just didn't want to waste the time when the 3 children were in school. No matter what age or gender one was, aside from children, life would always be better if one had more things to do. There must be a balance between family, children, and career. Yes, Jiaonan felt that children should be separated from this concept of family. A person who valued children might not value other family members. However, in a family, there were still other roles besides children and mother. Jiaonan wanted to value and take care of these family members as well. There must be a balance between the 3. If the balance was destroyed, life would naturally become miserable and no longer be as satisfactory as before. It was more difficult. However, if she didn't try, how would she know that she couldn't balance the 3 well? Furthermore, her ultimate goal was to make her free time more meaningful. Also, she should fulfill her original promise and do what she said. Even if it wasn't for herself but for all of the Zhu family who had passed away, Jiaonan felt that it was necessary for her to do so. After doing this, she wouldn't claim all credit. She hoped that there would still be people who remembered that the Zhu family had contributed to the country and people. Even if the Zhu family wasn't around now, the Zhu family's affection for the country and people were still around. This was what influenced her to make such a decision and plan. Jiaonan was purely doing good deeds. She wasn't trying to show off her reputation, manipulate public opinion, or endorse the Zai family. She was proceeding with everything silently without anyone knowing about it. The early planning and preparation work took almost half a year. This public welfare was officially launched half a year later, which was when the children were 2 years old. The initiative was implemented on the target audience that Jiaonan selected. Grandpa, drink water. Not only did Jiaonan invest money, but she also devoted herself to this public welfare. Out of the elders selected by her, some of them still had family members who could still take care of them. At this moment, most of Xiao Nan's investment went to material resources while a small amount went to financial subsidies to improve their quality of life. There were also some elders who had no children and their relatives weren't willing to take care of them. They were naturally taken in by nursing homes. Seeing that there were quite a number of elders who fell under this category, Xiao Nan's heart turned cold. She also felt heartache over these elders and their sacrificed sons. Xiao Nan brought the 3 children to the nursing home to do volunteer work one weekend. Xiao Nan wasn't planning on counting the 3 children to do much. She would still be doing most of the work herself. She just wanted the 3 children to experience this and learn a concept from a young age. However, this couldn't hold back the children's passion to learn from their mom. They also couldn't stay still. They were just walking a little more steadily themselves. However, they insisted on pouring water for the grandpas and grandmas in the nursing home. Seeing a half-full glass of water in the 3 chubby children's hands, the elders felt both heartwarming and heartache. Chapter 2400, Keeping One's Promise, 2. Slowly. The water's not hot, right? Don't be in a hurry, Grandpa. His son had sacrificed himself early and was no longer around. He hadn't married a wife and given birth to grandchildren. Aside from his son's sacrifice, his other siblings had their own homes. After the death of his son, he thought that he was going to live under a bridge for the rest of his old age. Who would expect that he could still enjoy this blessing today? Upon thinking of those siblings who no longer kept in contact with him for fear that he would burden them, the old man said that they might not even be leading a life as good as his now, even though they had children. He remembered back when nobody took care of him anymore, the government went to find his other relatives to take care of him on account that he was the family of a martyr. Those people who rejected him back then said, "I've long said that Bing Zi was a good child. When he was still around, he was so filial. We've long said it before. What's so good about being a soldier? He wouldn't earn much money and it's dangerous. See? Bing Zi didn't come back after he left. He didn't even leave behind a child. You're all alone. If you listened to us earlier and didn't let Bing Zi become a soldier but an office worker instead, would you end up in such a state today? Why did you name him Bing Zi? I think you gave him the wrong name back then. It's so inauspicious." Upon thinking about these words, the old man felt wronged. What was wrong with Bing Zi being a soldier? How was it not good? If nobody became a soldier, would the country have its day today? Would everyone be leading peaceful lives? Did they think he wanted to send Bing Zi to become a soldier? Back when Bing Zi was in school, his grades were good, especially those of the college entrance examination. However, he had no money and Bing Zi's mom was in poor health. They had long used up all the money in the family for Bing Zi's mom's medical treatment. There wasn't any money at home. He wanted to borrow some so that his son could become a university student and find a good job upon graduation. Once he earned money, they would return all the debts. Who would have thought that those relatives saw that their family's conditions were poor and none of them were willing to help Bing Zi? They even asked Bing Zi to work and stop studying. What kind of work was it? To wash the dishes. It wasn't that the old man despised dishwashing workers. He just felt that his son's grades were good and he was clever. Furthermore, the owner of the shop was the son's biological aunt. Forget it that she wasn't willing to lend money to them, but she even gave such a low salary to her nephew who could potentially go to a good university. The old man didn't want his biological sister to bully his outstanding son. If he really accepted this job, they might not even be relatives in the future. The old man was definitely not confused regarding this matter. In the end, Bing Zi himself decided to be a soldier. He felt that since he was named Bing Zi, he should be a soldier. Otherwise, he would be letting his dad, who named him, down. A dead son was a pain that the old man didn't want to remember. However, those relatives even said unpleasant words. Even if the relatives were willing to take care of him due to external pressure, the old man refused. He was already prepared to sleep under a bridge. Who knew that a beautiful girl brought him to a nursing home? Since then, he was well taken care of and had ample food and clothes. Compared to his life before, he really had nothing to say about the life he was leading after moving in. Later, the old man realized that most of the old people who lived here were in similar situations as him. This nursing home was specially built for elders like them. As he lived in a new room, lay on the bed with a quilt covering his body, and looked at the snow-white ceiling, the old man cried on the first night. Who said that it was a wrong decision for him to send Bing Zi to become a soldier? Who said that he deserved to have no son to take care of him when he was old after Bing Zi sacrificed himself? Who said that Bing Zi sacrificing for the country was stupid behavior? Who said that the country and people had already forgotten the contributions his Bing Zi made and the life he sacrificed? No. All of these were not true. There were still people who remembered. The old man felt that him receiving such care where no reciprocity was expected was a form of affirmation and commemoration of his son's sacrifice and contributions to the country and people. It was the right decision to agree to his son being a soldier back then. All the words his relatives said were untrue. The nurses in the nursing home took care of people well and bore good attitudes. What made the old man happy was that there would be some university students doing volunteer work in the nursing home from time to time. Those university students loved listening to these elders sharing stories of their sacrificed sons. Every time he saw these university students having looks of admiration for his son, he felt particularly comforted and proud. His son was a hero. Even if he had sacrificed his life, if there was a next life, he believed that he would still make the same decision and let his son walk the same path in life. The old man felt that his life in the later years was getting better and he was enjoying it more. Upon thinking that all of these were due to the blessing of his son and the country and the people hadn't forgotten about his son, the old man smiled every day. He knew that Jiaonan was the one who brought him his life now and these 3 children belonged to Jiaonan. The way he looked at the triplets was no different from how he looked at his own grandchildren. Drink. Sanbao brought water to the old man. Grandpa, drink water. Drink more water. Good. Jiaonan often said this sentence to the 3 children, drinking more water was good for health. The 3 children were learning how to speak now. After they became more able to understand the meaning in adults' words, they liked to imitate how the adults spoke and what they did the most. At home, the 3 children were under Jiaonan's care. When they were outside, Sanbao stood upright with her little chubby waist and expressed that drinking water was good and that these grandparents had to listen to her words as well. All right, I'll drink water. It's good for health. The old man took the cup from Sanbao's hands and drank a sip of water. It was as if he was drinking honey water. Wow, the water poured by Sanbao tastes so good. It's so sweet. Sanbao, did you put some sugar in the water for me? Sanbao knew that the grandpa was complimenting her. As such, she revealed a row of neat and clean millet teeth, smiling cutely. Her red face was like an apple, and her smile was as brilliant as the sun. The old man looked at her enviously. In the end, he reached out and touched Sanbao's head. Sanbao, shall I buy you flowers for your hair in the future? Sanbao obediently nodded. She smiled and didn't say anything.